Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award.
All right, so we got a big show today, as usual. It's a long weekend. I was up at 5 o'clock today after fevered dreams, as usual. Working on my God book. I had to get it back to the publisher today to go into galleys, if you can believe it. I worked on it all weekend. That was my Labor Day. I labored. I love it. That's what I do. I write books. As a barber once said to me, that's what you do. You write books and you do your radio show. That's right. So, in other words, while I'm on Earth, that's what I do. So I enjoyed doing it. I went through every word, all 49,000 words, changed a lot of it at the last minute. You don't know what's involved in a book until you realize it's your legacy and every word has to be right. So I opened with "We Won't Get Fooled Again" by The Who because I wonder if, well, we might be fooled again by the you-know-who. I mean, we hear DACA is ended, comma, sort of, period. What is DACA? Deferred action, whatever. In other words, it's the legalization of at least 800,000 illegal aliens. Now, they're human beings. They're human beings. Some are good, some are bad, some are average. But Jeff Sessions today announced that DACA, it very much reminds me of MAGA in a certain way. I guess every time we chant MAGA, they can chant DACA. That was created by Obama's illegal executive order, by the way. Remember, Obama flooded them in by train every way he could, and he gave an executive order granting clemency to children brought here by illegal immigrants. So Obama used his pen and his phone to put something in place that he had no right to do under the Constitution. You cannot make law as the president. Only the Congress can do that. And Obama completely cut them out, as dictators often do. Now, that could be an impeachable offense, but no one dares speak that word about St. Barry. You can only talk of impeaching Mr. Trump. My question is, why can't Trump take the same executive action and make sure DACA can't be put into effect by Congress? After all, Obama set the precedent. Everyone is now acting as though DACA is the law of the land. But it's not, and it never was, because it was done unconstitutionally by Barry. But no one cared about that because Obama did it. The DOJ didn't care, the Supreme Court didn't care, Congress didn't care. So we ask, why can't Trump make an executive order permanently banning DACA? Because he doesn't want to. Trump started waffling during the campaign when he said we had to do immigration with heart. What does that even mean? As I wrote in Trump's War, we've seen what happens when you make laws using one's heart instead of one's head. You get what Angela Merkel is dealing with in Germany, an out-of-control migrant problem that is causing terror and crime throughout Germany. Or in the UK and France, where there are places the police won't go for fear of getting killed. Is that what you want here in America? You want to wind up a stranger in a strange land? So now Trump has put his Republican Congress in a position where they have to take sides for or against these illegal immigrants. And Congress, who couldn't repeal Obamacare, as incompetent as they are, now has to figure out a solution to the DACA problem he just dumped in their laps. Do you actually think these do-nothings can figure this out? They can't even get funding for the border wall, another project that seems to have gone by the wayside. Well, it looks like the dream is over, but not for the dreamers. It looks like the dream of getting this agenda passed and passing, not amnesty, but reality, is over for us, the United States citizens. Sure, Trump kicked it down the road for 6 months, but that means you know what's going to happen. So today I want to talk about DACA from an American student's perspective. It's a student, not it. It is a student who goes to a community college in California who I asked, why do you oppose DACA? How do these so-called dreamers affect you as a legal student? You're not going to believe what I got back in the mail about how they are pushed aside for the illegals. In this case, at Santa Rosa Community College. Then we have the North Korean nuclear crisis. That is a huge story that kept me awake all weekend. That's a real story that has to be dealt with. Because Putin has warned of planetary catastrophe. Putin has warned that the escalating North Korean crisis could cause a planetary catastrophe and huge loss of life, and described U.S. proposals for further sanctions on Pyongyang as useless. Now, I want to say something about this. The Democrats and the haters in the Republican Party who have pushed for war with Russia, who have forced Trump to close embassies, Russian embassies, Pelosi, Feinstein, all of them have blood on their hands if this should escalate into a war. Never forget who started this showdown with Russia. It was the illegitimi on the left who wanted to crucify Trump using the false narrative of Russia. They call Putin Hitler. That's what Hillary did. And then every last Democrat, every last one of them, every last one of these illegitimates had the nerve to take our greatest ally. It's insanity, really, not nerve. Our greatest ally against ISIS was Russia, is Russia, has been Russia. And they have a nerve now to push Russia into the corner with China and North Korea. I want you to see not unintended consequences, but the consequences of stupidity. And stupidity it is. There is no other name for it. But in this case, the stupidity could lead to thorough nuclear war. And I want to remind you of something else. We've pushed Russia almost to the brink with what? With sanctions? And tell me what sanctions have led to in the past with other nations. Most of you don't know history. That's why you're condemned to repeat it. But I'm a student of history, and I know what sanctions have done in the past. When Japan was sanctioned in World War II, just before World War II, she became more hostile. When Japan was sanctioned, she invaded more territory because she was starved for resources. She invaded Manchuria, which led to World War II with Japan. You put sanctions on Russia over Ukraine, all you geniuses on the left, what has happened? Now Russia's been put into the camp with China and North Korea. They're no longer neutral. You did it. So what should Trump do about North Korea? Should Japan go nuclear? Will Trump really end DACA? Do you like my new website, michaelsavage.com? Check it out. It's amazing. We have a new webmaster. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of myself. It is now michaelsavage.com. No hyphenated connections to wonderful people in the past. They're good people. But it was time for me to make it an independent website, which I did after many years with WND. We're now on our own, and Karen O'Toole is now the webmaster, and I think she's doing a fabulous job. She's a young graduate of Temple University, and she's managing this whole website on her own. I think she did a great job. She worked on it for weeks. So check out michaelsavage.com and tell me what you think of it. As well, I have other topics I'm going to talk about today, a lot of them. Like, did man really originate in Africa? I don't think so. Not at all. That's like a fantasy. That's a fantasy piece of archaeology, a fantasy of anthropology. It's again an example that man originated in Africa of what politics has done to science, whether it be in global warming or climate science. Virtually every avenue of science has been polluted with propaganda along the lines of what was done in the Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin. Other topics for those potheads out there who think it's perfectly benign. You know how I've been smashing you on smoking marijuana for years, right? Well, an article came out last week based on real science at the University of British Columbia. Scientist Dr. Victor Chow said the weight of the evidence is that marijuana probably has a negative effect not only for sperm counts but sperm function. What that means is, all you dope heads out there, smoking marijuana causes fertility problems because it makes men's sperm lazily swim in circles the same way you as a doper have a mind that spins in circles. What goes on in your mind goes on in your sperm. That's according to doctors who study these things. Drug increases heart rate, affects blood pressure. It increases the risk of a pregnant woman's baby being born smaller than expected. Pot can affect the way a smoker's knees, elbows, and shoulders move when they're walking. I mean, it's an amazing story that will not get much circulation because of the propaganda put out by the marijuana industry. Those are just some of the stories. I have many others that have been built up. Again, I'll review. The song is by The Who, We Won't Get Fooled Again. What should Trump do about North Korea? Should Japan go nuclear? Will Trump really end DACA? Do you like my new website, michaelsavage.com? Did man originate in Africa? These are some of the topics I'm going to talk about. I have many, many others. But I think this is a good junction to begin telling you what DACA has done or how it affects American college students who were born in this country and have been here for many generations. I sent this question: how does DACA affect you as a student in this community college? Why do you oppose DACA? How do these so-called dreamers affect you as a legal student? And I got the answer, which I will have for you from Real Life 101, not from the confines of a radio studio where Andy Cooper cavorts around and prances. Not from a radio studio where they make millions of dollars a year and hate America. What a way to make a living, huh? Hate your country and make millions of dollars and laugh all the way to the Swiss bank. No, not from them, but from an actual student in an actual college. You will find out how she is treated as opposed to how illegal aliens are treated. Now, before I take my break, I guess this is as good a spot as any. I had a dream last night, and you know it's a personal show, and I share my dreams sometimes, memories, dreams, and reflections. I had a real doozy last night, and it's an interesting one in many ways. It's so metaphorical. It could be because I've advanced my hobby of water painting a little bit by taking a course last week, and I'm thinking in colors lately. So this is an odd dream, a really odd one. I don't even know where it came from. You ready for this? How do we know where the subconscious goes when we're asleep? I know it's frightening for most people to even think about that. And most people who I tell my dreams to say, you know, Michael, I don't dream. I don't know what my dreams are. I don't remember them. Well, you're missing an awful lot. It's the whole other life. It's like not knowing what is in the iceberg. All you know is what the tip of the iceberg is, which is your conscious mind. It's a tough adventure. I've been doing dream analysis since I'm 18 years old, and I taught my children to do dream analysis when we woke up as they were a young family. We would do dream analysis every morning over the cornflakes, which we didn't eat. But this was an odd one. Here's how it went. Robert, now or after the break, the dream? Have time for now? I have a 1 minute now job. 855-407-282 is the phone number to michaelsavage.com. I mean, to the radio show, not to the website. 855-400-SAVAGE. If you get a comment or have any ideas on any of the stories I have raised, whether it be DACA or North Korea. All right, here's the dream. I'm walking with my little dog, Teddy, who's 13 and aged and getting older, and I love him, and I fear he's going to move on, at some point, as all living things do. Okay? And I'm on a bluff with a lot of trees, and somehow he gets off the leash, and he falls down the hill, and I can't find him. So I start screaming, Teddy, 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 and I can't. It's a dream about trying to find my dog. I can't find him. I climb down this grassy hill, and I'm in Los Angeles in an area occupied by Mayan speakers. All Mayan speakers. There are people from Guatemala and that region of Mexico where Mayan languages are spoken. And I'm a stranger there, and I start saying, I need to find my dog. I can't find my Peco. The only Mayan I know are the few words I learned in that great movie by Mel Gibson, one of the greatest geniuses of our time, Apocalypto, one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life. And it was all done in the Mayan language, astounding. So I'm saying, where's my dog? Where's my dog? Could you help me find my dog? And no one's really wanting to help me. I'm a stranger. So finally I meet a guy who speaks a little English, and I say, look, tell him I'll give them a big reward if they help me find this little dog. He's a gray poodle, about 10 pounds. So he speaks to them in Mayan, and then they respond because they're poor people. They figure, what am I going to help this guy for? But when they know there's a reward, they're going to help me. Well, there's more to the dream, but it's very symbolic of where we are in America today, isn't it? Isn't it very symbolic of where we are in America today? My feeling is that if these rates of immigration continue, Mayan will be taught in our schools the way Spanish was taught in our schools 40 years ago. It will become another language in this country, for better or for worse. I mean, I'm not even commenting on whether it's for better or for worse. I happen to like the people that I meet who speak the Mayan language. They're amazing people, the hardest working people I ever met, and they're largely very poor people, and they live 5 to a room the way my ancestors lived when they first came to New York. So believe me, I relate to it. They don't look like me, they don't sound like me, they don't talk like me, but I don't need to be lectured to about tolerance and civility. I'll leave that for the other side to learn. Let the liberals learn some tolerance and civility.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. We're talking about North Korea, what should be done. We are talking about we won't get fooled again by the WHO, and yet Trump said he's going to end DACA, but not now. So he kicked the can down the road, which he actually has to do. It's in the hands of Congress. He doesn't have unilateral powers, as Obama did, because Obama was special. As you understand, the rules that applied to America for the hundreds of years that we've been a country did not apply to Obama because he was special. He was a saint. He won a Nobel Prize before he was born, apparently, and when he was selected to be president, long before he was even a teenager, by the secret hands that run everything. Joke. But anyway, the fact of the matter is DACA is very controversial for a number of reasons. It hurts a lot of American students. It hurts a lot of American workers. And so what's the answer? To kick them out? I don't know. What's the answer? We hear that they're all wonderful young people. Now they're young people. I guess that would also include the people who committed crimes. They're also wonderful young people. You see, here's the interesting thing. Young people and teens are good if they're not white. I know that was shocking, wasn't it? When have you last heard anyone refer to young people who, let us say, want Robert E. Lee statues as young people? Maybe some young people in the South like Robert E. Lee statues, but they're not young people. See, they're not young people. They're fascists. They're racist. They're Ku Klux Klan members. They're Nazis. They're no longer young people. But if they're illegal aliens, they're all good, and they're all young people or teens, according to Wolfie and Blitzer, on Prancer, on Dancer, with all of your fables.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
See, that's opposite to MAGA. Those who chant MAGA. There are people in the streets of America today chanting DACA. DACA, 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 DACA. Everything's a chant now in America. One chants this, the other chants that. But where the schmendricks on the left think they have the right to block a street, throw them in jail. I don't mean in and out, no turnstile. See, what's happened is the left has told them block the streets. This is the National Lawyers Guild, which is secretly worse than the ACLU. Boy, I wish Trump would ask what I think needs to be done. You investigate National Lawyers Guild under RICO. You investigate ACLU under RICO. You put them on the grill the way they're putting him on the grill for Russia, and that's the end of the problem. Anyway, so I got to tell you, this DACA thing is very interesting. I asked a young community college student, point blank, why do you oppose DACA? How do these so-called dreamers affect you as a legal student? And she's a native Californian. She's in community college, and she said she'll remain anonymous because there'll be retaliation from the wonderful, compassionate progressives who run the college. At Santa Rosa Junior College, they have an entire dream center, and it seems like special treatment that everyone else has to pay for. But then I suppose if they have the dream center, the admissions and records office won't be bogged down by dreamers who are having trouble navigating the myriad of government benefits and such that are awaiting their applications. You see, that's a sarcastic statement. It's scary to be lost and confused in a new school, I guess, but it does sometimes seem like the needs of illegal immigrants are the first priority. The webpage for this center, Dreams at Santa Rosa Education, says the following, quote, undocumented students start here. The Dream Center is a one-stop shop in a safe, caring place for undocumented students, new and continuing at Santa Rosa Junior College. Students will receive personalized support as they begin the college journey. I love it. Dream Center staff are here to create a welcoming experience while students navigate matters related to AB 540, DACA, the California Dream Act, EOPS, that's free money, the Board of Governors fee waiver, you hear this? Referrals to assessment and counseling free, and the essentials of full matriculation at SJRC. So in other words, this is wonderful if you're a child of an illegal alien. You get a gold-plated entry into a college. You get free advice, while the American students can go drop dead and work 5 jobs. They don't care about you anymore. You don't even matter to them. What matters to them are the illegal aliens, because that's what Pelosi, the boss, wants. Whatever Pelosi and Feinstein, the bosses, want, they get. And I understand that the head of the Santa Rosa Junior College is a former acolyte of none other than Willie Brown. That's right. He worked for Willie Brown, and he landed a cushy job at this community college where he bends over backwards for the illegal aliens and tells the other children, you're second-class citizens, basically. You know, I would have loved such a dream center when I was an immigrant son in New York City at Queens College. To this day, I was bogged down with that college, trying to navigate getting into that school. I was confused by the enrollment procedure. It would have been nice if I had a dream center. Could have used a safe, caring place for the children of immigrants who wanted to go to Queens College, City University of New York. I could have used personalized support as I began my college journey. I could have used a welcoming experience as I navigated matters related to admissions and scholarships, of which I got none. There were no scholarships in those days. You just took a job after school. I worked my way through college. That's how I did it. I don't know if it made me better or for worse, but that's what I did. Well, why then are there so many benefits for them and not the other college students? Why? Why do you think California bends over backwards for illegal aliens? And by the way, I'm talking also about stepping on African-American students who don't get DACA. How come they don't get some special help? Why don't poor white kids get special help? Why only illegal aliens from south of the border? Why? Why? You can't figure it out yet? What do you think about this issue? And also the North Korea issue. I know you'll probably talk more about the DACA than North Korea because you don't know what to do with North Korea. There's almost a no-win there. By the way, those of you who love immigration and think they're all good and all come here to work, you do know that I got my start in radio and I tried to publish a book after 6 published books entitled Immigrants and Epidemics, and no one in New York would touch it. Well, in Italy, a girl died of malaria in an area of Italy free of the disease for decades, brought in by travelers from Africa. That's right. 4-year-old girl in northern Italy died Sunday of cerebral malaria, raising fears that the deadly blood disease is back in a region that has been free of it for decades. Now, you can't say it comes from Africa, even though it does, because if they do that, they lose their jobs in the universities in Italy. Health officials are investigating several theories. They don't know where the Anopheles mosquito comes from. You have no idea that the Anopheles mosquito is still endemic in regions of Africa? No, I guess they need to study a few textbooks on it. See, Italy was declared malaria-free in 1970 after marshes with the disease-carrying mosquitoes were drained in the country. But the mosquitoes are back. They came in with the suitcases. Isn't it wonderful how immigrants and epidemics was one of the most brilliant things I ever said? Obama brought in hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them, this time from Honduras, where Zika was endemic and unknown in America. It's now quite well known in America, Zika. So the blood is on the hands of St. Barry over here. Again, that's another topic. It's only Tuesday after a long holiday. You know, it's a beautiful weekend up here for some people. The flooding hasn't gone away, by the way. They're going to be dealing with that for decades to come. Meanwhile, a hurricane's about to hit Florida. But I'm not going to talk about a regional storm or a regional weather system. As important as it may be, it is not of interest to people elsewhere, especially in the world in which we live today. I don't know if you understand that. I don't think you understand that what happens in Houston, while very important in that region, it's not that important outside of the region. I know it sounds cruel, but that is the reality of what we're dealing with. Any more than a hurricane about to hit Florida doesn't really influence anybody except those who are in Florida. You can't make your area the most important area in the world, and it is very important. Millions of people are being affected by this. But that's the story. And balancing that with the issues of DACA, national story, North Korea, international story, I think it's important to talk about the international and national stories, and that's why I'm doing it. And so let's take some callers on this. Have you been affected by DACA? Has it affected you as an American college student? How? KSFO, David, line 5, you have the floor. Go ahead, you're on the Savage Nation.
Mr. Savage.
Go, you're on the radio.
Yes, Mr. Savage. One of the things I was wanting to get your opinion on was DACA. They say there's 800,000 that are going to be displaced from this action, and I'm a 32-year-old ex-veteran company owner, and so many jobs go unfulfilled. We have these workers in the workforce, and, let's say 50% of them are, young kids that are trying to be American. Why wouldn't we want to keep those in the workforce when people like me, a small company owner, can't fill the positions I have?
It's a very important question.
I don't agree.
Well, hold on. Let's deal with it. How old are these students, these illegal aliens who are now working for you? What age bracket?
They don't work for me. I don't hire anybody without a Social Security number. But I wish I could hire somebody with a Social Security number.
Okay, wait, so let me see if I understand. You're saying you can't find workers? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's very hard lately in the skilled trades to find anyone that wants to pick up a hammer and a nail.
Ah, okay, I got it. Right. American kids can't saw a piece of wood. They can't drive a nail. They can't turn a screw. They can't put in a light bulb without calling an electrician.
Exactly. In fact, my own high school, I came back after the Marine Corps. They got rid of the welding programs, the machining programs. But you have these, from my understanding, kids that are wanting to be Americans. Why not teach them the trades and put them in the workforce?
Well, wait a minute. If you're going to say teach them the trades, why not teach the trades to the Americans who don't know the trades? I've been calling for vocational schools for at least 5 years on this radio program. And I'll repeat again, when I went to Jamaica High School, Queens, New York, next to it was a trade school where kids learned to do just what you're talking about. Those are the kids who weren't academically oriented, and they wanted to learn how to be plumbers, electricians, carpenters, etc. Then there was a third high school nearby, commercial high school, for the girls who didn't even want to go academic or that way. They wanted to go right in to be a secretary. That's the way it was. People tracked immediately right out of a junior high school or right out of grade school. Not everybody was made to go to Harvard, so to speak. As you well know today, most kids are not equipped to go to an academic college. They can't keep up, they don't know what they're doing, and they don't belong there to begin with. Maybe they'd be fabulous in some other fields.
And Mr. Savage, I was one of those kids. I've gone to 4 colleges myself. I'm GI Bill. Worked very hard to go to them. But if we're willing to take in a class of people that are willing to do the jobs legally and try to submit to the system, why don't we accept them into the workforce?
Well, you keep raising a question that your question has an answer in it, and I keep answering it another way, which is why not teach the trades to American students who don't know how to plumb or do electrical or carpentry? Why not teach it to them?
Well, and just as you've been saying for years, we're kind of backwards in the way we've been thinking on the school system.
In other words, I would say, sure, teach these trades to young people, but start with American citizens first.
And I agree.
Right?
Fully.
That's all I'm saying to you. And I'm very sensitive to that issue because I come from a working background and I work to this day. I could have retired a long time ago, but I don't because work is built into me. It's part of my DNA. It was drilled into me as a young man. And unless I'm working, I'm really not feeling well. I'll be very frank with you. Here's a Labor Day weekend. You know what I did? I worked for 3 straight days on my book, God, Faith, and Reason. I had to get it back to the publisher. That's what I did. Was I resentful? Not really. I didn't want to go anywhere. I said I could. There's beautiful lakes up in Northern California, gorgeous Lake Tahoe. I didn't go there. Why? Because I'm a slave for work, and I like it. So to me, work is liberation. I guess you could say I'm a victim of the adage, freedom is slavery. I guess I bit it. I've bitten it all off. But you know what? I'm still alive. It doesn't. Hey, I got to tell you something, David. Work seems to be healthful.
Savage, I work 7 days a week. Small.
That's right. And when you take a day off, do you feel as good as when you're working with your hands?
Yes, or even better. I can't sit on my butt like most Americans, and as a 32-year-old, I'm a lot younger than you. I don't understand most people in my age group because they're all gamers and computer freaks. And
Let me ask you this: do you ever intend to retire? Do you have a goal to retire at a certain age?
No, honestly, I don't. I plan.
Don't. Here's my advice to you: don't, because you'll be bored to death within 3 months. You won't know what to do with yourself. If you're given to working with your hands and you get some satisfaction out of seeing a job completed, you're going to go really nuts sitting around trying to figure out what to do with yourself. How many trips can you take with your wife or a lover? How many trips can you take? How many times can you play golf without losing your mind?
Nope. And that's why...
I never learned how to play golf. I never learned how to play tennis, and I never learned how to ski. I was an inner-city kid. I'm not boasting about it. It's just the way it is. I taught my children how to ski. Even though we didn't have money, the first thing I did was teach them how to ski when they were little kids, because I knew they'd be living in California and they would love it. So it's not like I'm saying I'm proud that I don't. I just don't. I didn't learn it. So the thing is my kids learned it. But the thing is, they're both workers. They don't really do that stuff much anymore.
Last question for you, Mr. Savage.
I wish you very good luck with your business. That's what we need as young businessmen. Anyone pondering these questions can call us at 855-407-282. God, what else? What else do you want me to talk about? Have we touched on all the topics already? We touched on my dream. What should Trump do about North Korea? Should Japan go nuclear? Will Trump really end DACA? Do you like my new website, michaelsavage.com? I didn't touch the nurse cop violence update, but I'm going to touch it now. We're going to really broaden the questions out. Most of you saw the cop who went crazy, the thug bully cop who should be arrested for and tried for, in my estimation, after watching that tape, felonious assault and kidnapping. That's what he did to that nurse. I have never, ever seen anything like that in my entire life. And I said, should the Utah cop be charged with felonious assault and kidnapping? The answer is yes. I think this guy was on drugs. The nurse even said recently that she looked in his eyes and she saw he was on something. Am I right, Robert? That's what she said, basically. Nurse Wubble. This cop was clearly out of control, and it brings up a big question, and it's a sensitive one for my show where police are so loyal to this program. Why are cops so on edge and trigger-happy these days? Why are so many cops on edge and seem to be so trigger-happy these days? On the top of michaelsavage.com, we have, not malaria from Italy, we moved it down. On the left side, cop shoots Ohio journalist at traffic stop after confusing camera and tripod for a gun. Do you understand why I'm asking that question? You will the minute the callers call in. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Extra, hear all about it. Yeah, Trump's DACA dilemma. My monologue is on michaelsavage.com, as is the book cover of God, Faith, and Reason, which will be out in a couple of months, but you can pre-order. Malaria from Africa invades Italy. Yeah, it's a horrible story, but real. Can't change facts, no matter what your name is. Cop shoots Ohio journalist at traffic stop after confusing camera and tripod for gun. One moron called and hung up and said the reason he did it, the cops are doing it, is because they're inherently racist. Moron, caller who hung up. The cop was white in this case, and the journalist was white, idiot. So you already have your answer built in. I guess you're a member of Antifa. But you'll soon be in prison. Oh, yes. Jeff Sessions is coming for you, so is DHS. You will all soon be in jail, as will be your funding sources. I wonder what's going to happen in all the universities when they rip the masks off these Antifa vermin, and they see that half of them are tenured professors at universities. Where are they going to get teachers from? There's going to be a teacher shortage. Well, in the social sciences anyway, once they're thrown in the jail where they belong. Question for you, what really died at Auschwitz? Answer, Europe. It's a remarkable essay that someone sent me over the weekend. What really died at Auschwitz? Answer, Europe died. Article written by Spanish writer Sebastian Villar Rodriguez. Talks about 6 million Jews being replaced by 20 million Muslims and how Europe died.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award.
The undocumented students are so much superior in virtually every way to the American student. They are everything that the world has been waiting for. They are the dream people. And that is why William from Santa Rosa Junior College sent me an anonymous email. He didn't want me to mention his name, William, but I have to. He said, look, I've been at this college, for about a year. And he said, at Santa Rosa Junior College, by the way, the college president is an acolyte of Willie Brown. See how it all works together? After they finish doing what they do, they get farmed out to the colleges to collect the fattest salaries you could ever imagine, with the fattest pensions that you could never afford. And then while they're there, they spit on American values and American laws, saying that they're holier than thou. By the way, when I saw what they were doing and the way they're bending over backwards at this college, I couldn't help but sending my comment to the college president. And I made it very simple. I said, you're openly violating federal law. Federal law controls immigration policies. I am reporting your blatant disregard both for the will of the majority of legal American citizens and for common sense control of our national borders. That's what I sent to him. I hope they put him in prison. I hope that not only does Jeff Sessions follow through with upholding the law of the land, but imprisons all those college professors and all those self-righteous do-gooder Bolsheviks for breaking the law. What's odd to me, it's not odd at all, is when Barry broke the law, that would be President Obama to you. So for the sake of identification, when President Obama broke the law, which he did numerous times on immigration issues, and I got on the show and I said, the states don't want this. The states don't want this. The states want their own way of doing things. Many of you call the show, it's, oh, no, no, no. Federal law is what rules over immigration issues, not state law. See? Well, now there's a new federal government, and the new federal law is the old federal law. And that's why it should override all of that which the states want to do. But you see, it doesn't apply anymore because the lying hypocrites on the left want to change the rules according to what they want. So they create a Dream Center that you pay for, and the Dream Center is a one-stop, safe, caring place for undocumented students. And it gives them personalized support as they begin their college journey. Isn't that nice? My father was an immigrant. I had no college journey help. I had to work after school. I worked happily after school. I was glad to get a job in my friend's father's clothing store in Jackson Heights. In fact, I loved the job. And I read the Dream Center staff are here to create a welcoming experience while students navigate matters related to AB 540 admissions. That means how to scam the system and get in even though you're not qualified. DACA, the California Dream Act, another act passed to give advantages to illegal aliens. EOPS, Extended Opportunities Program and Services. Americans need not apply. The BOG, Board of Governors fee waiver, again, Americans need not apply. Referrals to assessment and counseling, again, Americans need not apply. And every other trick in the book in order to make sure that illegal aliens known as dreamers get to the head of the line. William has certainly enlightened me. And I'm trying to enlighten you as to the fact that, you know, there's an old adage in the stock market, whatever goes up, something must come down. If someone makes money, it means someone lost money. Did you know that? I don't know if you know that. I learned that a long time ago when I was a young investor, and I decided never to invest because I knew the investment system in stocks and bonds was rigged. by those who are on the inside. Like, tell me about it. You didn't see the movies Wall Street? The whole thing is rigged from top to bottom. But the fact is that anyone who makes money, there's someone losing money. It's the same with this DACA program. Whoever is given an unfair advantage with DACA, this unfair advantage is being taken away from someone else, black or white or Asian. An illegal student is being shortchanged in order to make sure that the illegal aliens who are here under DACA get a gold-plated passage through the college experience. And that's that. The dream is that. Mayan language dream. How could I dream in Mayan when I don't even speak the language? On my bicycle ride this morning, I told my weird dream to there's a guy he says hello to me every morning. He's a worker on a boat nearby. I figured he spoke one of the Mayan languages, so I stopped. I've said hello to him for years. We don't really talk. He has a little dog I joke with, and that. You know, his kids work so hard. So I said to him, "Do you speak Mayan?" He said, "Yes, I do." So I asked him, "What's the word for Mayan and dog?" And he told me, I think he said peco. Peco is dog. And it's funny, it's perro in Spanish. So here's a man, you look at him, an illegal alien, working hard every day, speaks English, Spanish, Mayan, God knows what else. He lives in a room with 5 other men, all hard workers. Don't think I'm blind to it. You think I'm blind to what's going on? You think I don't see who does the hard work? My only question is, why are there no trade schools to teach these skills to Americans who are not working? That's a whole separate question. You might say, well, they're going to suddenly start to learn how to do things? It's not easier to collect a welfare check and smoke dope? I don't know. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the nation's been doped out of existence thanks to George Soros. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe we're in a nation that's crippled. What was the story last week on Drudge? 2/3, 1/3 of recruits can't make it into the military. They're too fat or stoned. Thanks, George. You did a great job. How did this emigre do so much damage to this country? How could one man who trades currencies damage a nation like this? How is it possible that he's still not in prison? Then we're talking about what really died at Auschwitz, which is not related to that at all. And it's an interesting viewpoint. It's a copy of an article written by a Spanish writer, Sebastian Villar Rodriguez, published in a Spanish newspaper. And his answer is, Europe died. And here's what he wrote. I walked down the streets in Barcelona and suddenly discovered a terrible truth. Europe died in Auschwitz. We killed 6 million Jews and replaced them with 20 million Muslims. In Auschwitz, he says, we burned a group of people who represented culture, thought, creativity, and talent. We destroyed the chosen people, truly chosen, because they produced great and wonderful people who made great contributions to the world and thus changed the world. And he goes on. And he says, and under the pretense of tolerance, and because we wanted to prove to ourselves that we were cured of the disease of racism and bigotry, Europe opened our gates to 20 million Muslims who brought us stupidity and ignorance, religious extremism, and lack of tolerance, crime and poverty, due to an unwillingness to work and support their families with pride. He wrote this, not me. He says in the editorial, they have blown up our trains and turned our beautiful Spanish cities into the third world, drowning in filth and crime. They are shut up in the apartments they receive free from the government. They plan the murder and destruction of their native hosts. And thus in our misery, we have exchanged culture for fanatical hatred, creative skill for destructive skill, intelligence for backwardness and superstition. We have exchanged the pursuit of peace of the Jews of Europe and their talent for a better future for their children, their determined clinging to life because life is holy, for those who pursue death, for people consumed by the desire for death, for themselves and others, for our children and theirs. What a terrible mistake, he writes, was made by miserable Europe. It's an amazing essay. It gets even more gut-wrenching. He says, recently the UK debated whether to remove the Holocaust from its school curriculum because it offends the Muslim population, which claims the Holocaust never occurred. Well, it's not been removed yet. He said, however, this is a frightening portent of the fear that is gripping the world as a result of the Muslim invasion and how easily each country is giving into it. He concludes by saying it is now approximately 70 years after the Second World War in Europe ended. And he wants you to send this out in memory of the 6 million Jews, 20 million Russians, 10 million Christians, and 1,900 Catholic priests who were murdered, raped, burned, starved, beaten, experimented on, and humiliated. He says, now more than ever, with Iran, among others, claiming the Holocaust to be a myth, it is imperative to make sure the world never forgets. It's a beautiful essay that is truthful. I wouldn't have read it to you. And it's on michaelsavage.com, the new website. It took us a lot of doing to get going. And you can send it around to your friends. What really died at Auschwitz? The answer is Europe. That's another one. And there are other stories we're talking about. Mainly to us at home, we're talking about the pebble in the shoe, which is DACA. What is DACA? It's basically a free pass for illegal immigrant children. That's what DACA in plain English. It's an historic error. And Trump said, well, he's going to phase out the DREAMer program. What does that actually mean? Tell me what that actually means. You're going to phase it out. What does that really mean? You know the Republicans are going to definitely throw it out. You know that he's being advised by liberals within his own circle who want DACA to stay. And we read that Mexico is going to welcome migrants with open arms. I say great. Let these millions of talented young people, we hear 800,000. Let's say, let these 800,000 all talented, you know they're all talented. They're all smarter than you are. They're smarter than any American student by a land mile. It's in their genes, they're smarter. They're much more superior to American students. Well, all of these 800,000 superior DACA students, I think they should go home and help rebuild their hellhole countries that their parents came from. Don't you understand that it actually would be to the advantage not only of the home country, but to America as well? If they were to go home to Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Honduras, or wherever else they came from, and use their genius, because they're all geniuses, to rebuild those nations and bring the ideals and dreams that the college professors seem to think they all have, why these nations would be lifted up by these great dreamers. And in lifting up these nations that their parents fled, why then they wouldn't have to come to this terrible, terrible racist nation of ours. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Everybody wins? Just a thought anyway. And what about North Korea? What should Trump do? What should Trump do? It's easy to say bomb them. It's easy to say use this on them and that on them. What, you should kill innocent North Koreans? Because Fatso has 400 doubles hanging around with him? Did you know that Kim Jong-Fadon has 400 doubles? Or something like that? He fattened up 399 other people who look like him. He makes them walk around with him, so you don't know where he is at any time. He is the most dangerous man on the planet. He is the most dangerous individual in modern history. And, of course, the left is now lining up with Kim Jong mentally ill on. Did you know that? Because anything that Trump does, they take the opposite viewpoint. Why? Well, I'm sorry, the formula works. Plug it in. If you can't answer a question, there's always one answer. Liberalism is a mental disorder. This is the Savage Nation. Be here.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. It is the Savage Paradise for most of your ears out there. This is paradise because you hear what you actually think as opposed to the rubbish and swill that passes for news in this country. And I can't repeat all of the topics I'm talking about. It's just what it is. I think you can catch up if you came into class late today with the callers. So let's start with, I don't know, the callers are going to do this. KYRO. Radio. David, line 4. Go ahead. What's on your mind? Hang up. That's all. Goodbye, Charlie. All right. Let's go to the next caller. WABC Paul, line 3, New York City. Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, sir. I'm a big fan of yours. I've read all your books except for the last one. I'd like to say I used to work for ICE, and I can tell you a lot of people don't know this, but I mean, once whether Trump or Congress gets rid of DACA, and let's say they enforce immigration law, these immigrants or these DACA people are still going to have an opportunity to pay to get a lawyer to stay here.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be shipped out as soon as they...
No, I understand that. Mexico said they're going to pay for their legal fees. Every crackpot, left-wing, anti-American law student is going to work for them for free. Every big law firm is going to offer free counseling for these illegal aliens. I know what's coming.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, they're going to...
Because there's an entire fifth column in the United States of America that needs to be cleaned out like a rusty clock. This country is filled with fellow travelers of our worst enemies, and most of them have law degrees, I'm sorry to tell you. These lawyers seem to think that they're a law unto themselves. How is that possible, that they have such love for students who are not citizens and such contempt for the average American? Can you explain that to me, Paul? Where does their contempt for the American student come from, and their love for people I never met? Where does that come from?
It comes from the educational system, colleges.
You mean they think that these students are all going to be sterling American citizens? Every last one of them is superior to every American?
You know what? You're asking the wrong person. I'm no like scholar, but there's definitely some animosity towards people that abide by the law. That starts with the educational system in America.
I hear you. As a former government lawyer, I hear you. Here's an interesting article from Breitbart. Evangelical group on DACA. The Bible does not teach open borders. That's fascinating, because it ties right into my forthcoming book, God, Faith, and Reason, which I have a burden just lifted off me today. I didn't realize how much it was weighing on me. Do you know that I mentioned it last Friday or Thursday once for about 10 minutes, and it shot up to number one amongst Christian books and number one amongst religious books? I didn't say number one in all books, no. But amongst people who read the Bible, my book, God, Faith, and Reason, went to number one with only one day's mention. It's not out, by the way, until November, but I hope you check it out on Amazon or Barnes & Noble and any of the other websites. Maybe you want to get an advanced copy and move it up to number one to make a statement when it comes out. But the evangelical group on DACA, the Bible does not teach open borders. Evangelicals for Biblical Immigration, a group of faith leaders and other evangelical Christian conservative activists, offered President Donald T. and the congressional leadership advice on the impending end of DACA. He said, "We find that the Bible does not teach open borders, but wise welcome." Isn't that interesting? What in the world is wise welcome? There's also a wise goodbye, isn't there? That's what we're looking for. What is the wisest way to say bye-bye to illegal aliens who don't belong here, who are taking resources that are scarce, that should go to American citizens first? We don't have unlimited resources. The country is bankrupt. Where is all this money supposed to come from?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
So in New York City, some protesters were arrested at Trump Tower after the DACA announcement. The Obama-era Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program has given almost 1 million young illegal immigrants a reprieve from deportation and the ability to work legally in the form of 2-year renewable work permits. Well, a group of agitators was sent out there with horrible racist signs in Spanish that said "Deport Trump" and "Deport Sessions," signs that were offensive to me. And they were not arrested, by the way. The NYPD, under the communist mayor, de Blasio, told the cops not to take their fingerprints, because if you would take their fingerprints, the arrest information would have been transmitted to Immigration and Customs Enforcement. As you well know, de Blasio believes in violating the law, which is how he got where he is. He's used illegal aliens, as have almost every other big city mayor, big nation, big government leader. How do you think they got where they are? How do you think they get elected over and over again when most taxpayers despise their policies? How do you think they do it? How? How do you think Feinstein and Pelosi maintain their lock grip over California when there's no opposition? You're telling me they're loved by everybody? They're not loved by everybody, because the unions provide the votes. The unions, as you well know, represent illegal aliens. So these mayors like de Blasio, governors like Brown, governors like Cuomo, of course they want illegal aliens to stay here. They have no, what do you think? They personally love all of these children? No, they want the votes. That's all they want out of them. So the NYPD is told, don't do your job. No fingerprints, no arrest information transmitted to ICE. Can you believe that this country is now in a state of lawlessness because of these Bolshevik mayors? Now, of course, the Deferred Action Program that Trump said he's going to end, it's kind of it's a charade. Because Jeff Sessions said today that Congress will be given 6 months to come up with a legislative solution to protect the nearly 1 million young illegals currently protected under DACA. Now, what do you think this do-nothing Congress is going to do? Tell me. Then you got these DACA troublemakers sitting down in the middle of the street in Manhattan blocking traffic. I don't know why they're being treated with kid gloves. I don't know why they're not arrested, other than Mayor de Blasio is a criminal himself. If he is not upholding the law of the land, which he is not doing, he's violating the law. If the mayor tells the cops not to uphold the law, the mayor is lawless, and therefore the mayor should be arrested. He'd love it anyway. It would make him a real folk hero. Why in the world do these loudmouths from other countries have the gall to come to my country and open their big mouths, block streets, and tell me that I'm a this or I'm a that? Why don't they try that in the countries they came from? Tell me that. Tell me why they have such big mouths when they come here. And tell me how the hundreds of people who boarded buses in Jackson Heights, Queens, in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and other communities in the tri-state to rally in Washington, where did they get the money from? Tell me where these illegal aliens get the money to take buses to Washington, D.C. They're not working. Oh, they are working? I forgot. They're working for George Soros. They're working for the emigre who has destroyed more nations than you can count on one hand. Where do they get the money to travel to Washington on a protest bus? Who's paying for it? These are professional out-of-state agitators. And if you cross state lines to commit a riot, you should go to federal prison. And I think we need tougher laws, not weaker laws, and I don't think we should bend over backwards for illegal aliens. I don't care how hard they work. If they come here to work, good. I'm glad to hear it. But if you come here to tell me how to run my country, I don't appreciate it very much. Save that for the country you came from. Save it for Mexico, see what happens to you. Go close a street down in El Salvador, see what happens to you. Go close a street down in Nicaragua or El Salvador and see how nice your friendly government treats you. You're not welcome in my country to close down my streets. And I don't appreciate this. And what you've done by this is you've alienated a lot of middle-of-the-roaders here. We don't like you for doing this to us. And all you're doing is being used by the plantation owners of today. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, plantation owner. U.S. Senator Cory Booker, new plantation owner. I can read the other names. Why do you think they love the DACA people, the illegals, so much? What do you think, they have such compassion for them? Why don't they have compassion for the poor American student who doesn't have a dream center to go to? Where's the dream center for a poor American student, black, white, Asian, or Hispanic? A legal citizen. Tell me. Tell me why they don't have dream centers for them. Why? I'll let you figure it out. U.S. Senator Cory Booker, who's breaking the law, says Congress should circumvent this decision by passing legislation that will protect the hundreds of thousands of dreamers. Don't you love how everything has a new name? Dreamers. They're no longer illegal aliens, but they're dreamers. What are they dreaming about? What are they dreaming about? A free pass through college? And then a free pass right up the American way? They're not willing to wait online? Then he says, Congress must also act to finally fix our broken immigration system, code words for amnesty, and pass comprehensive immigration reform, code words for amnesty, that offers a pathway to citizenship, code words for amnesty, for millions of Americans living in the shadows, code words for amnesty, keeps families together, code words for amnesty, and lives up to our highest ideals and values. From Cory Booker, you hear this? He's going to lecture me on our highest ideals and values. Don't you love this? Don't you just love all of these low-life Democrats lecturing us on our highest ideals and values? Hey, Cory, let me tell you what a high ideal and value is getting on the back of the bus like everybody else when they came here. No one gave me a dreamer pass. And I am an immigrant son. I worked 2 jobs after school to go through college, Cory. And when I couldn't keep up, guess what happened? I got a D, not an A. Nobody came over to my house crying, Cory. The highest ideals and values of America are hard work and doing it fairly and doing it legally, Cory. Something maybe you ought to teach these dreamers. but you hear all of these flowery words. Representative Adriano Espal, I don't even want to read this stuff. Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr., what do you expect him to say? What do you expect them to say when their entire audience, or a good portion of it, consists of people who are not citizens? What do you expect? What do you expect members of La Raza to say? A racist organization through and through. How could you have a group called La Raza, the race, and think we Americans are so dumb to not understand that you're a brown supremacist, that you are an Hispanic supremacist, and we find it repugnant to put your race above those of others. And yet Obama invited you into the White House. He took the former head of La Raza, Cecilia Munoz, and he made her the head of some civil rights or immigration division right inside the White House, and there was not one word from the Wolfies and the Woodpeckers. So, President Trump is stuck. He said he's going to end it, but what does that really mean? What does it actually mean to those of us who have children in school who are being given second-class status in order to push these illegal aliens ahead of them online? And make no mistake about it, they're being pushed ahead with everything you can imagine. They get scholarships only for them. They have dreamer rooms for them, counseling for free, everything for free. What is a young immigrant who was brought into the country illegally as a child, by the way? What does that mean? Well, why don't we look at the root cause of this problem? If the parents violated the laws of the land by breaking the law and sneaking into America, then they were here illegally. Now, why should their children be made legal citizens if the parents were committing a crime and getting here? How does that work? Let me see if I can figure this one out. The parents came here illegally. They violated federal law. They had a child here, or they brought the child from their country. The child is now suddenly called a dreamer, a new invention of the radical left. All of a sudden, they're dreamers. Your child born in America is not a dreamer. Your child is a KKK member or a Nazi. They're dreamers, and your children are Nazis. Even if your child is, let us say, not white, they're suddenly an honorary Nazi or Ku Klux Klan member, according to the radical left. The Bolsheviks have declared all American children Nazis or Ku Klux Klan members, except the dreamers. The dreamers are these sterling Nobel Prize winners. Every one of them is going to go on to be a doctor, an engineer, a social worker. Nobel Prize winners, all of them. Every last one has come here to make a better America for all of us. That's what we're told. They have high ideals. But your child has no ideals. Your child just a low-life deplorable. So now they're weaponizing immigration in order to divide America even further. And by granting illegal aliens educational opportunities, which they may or may not be entitled to, what they're doing is denying or depriving American students of these educational opportunities that should have rightly gone to them first. And then they say, oh, they'll benefit us all down the road when they make great contributions to our nation using the tools they learned here in our great country. All of them are going to make great contributions. What tools did they learn here in our great country? Tools of blocking traffic? Tools of shooting off their big mouths wherever you go, screaming that we're all racist and no good? That's the tools you taught them? No, I don't think those tools will be very useful for a better America. And what's really shameful here is Mayor de Blasio to say to the police, you can't fingerprint them because then their illegal status will be known by ICE and they can be deported. Shame on you, de Blasio. But we well know a man like you is shameless. Shameless, shameless, shameless. Yes, indeed, my friends. What I've got to do for you now is very important, and I'm going to do it in a second, which is right now, because I'm going to tell you about Optima Tax. Why? Because everyone knows that the taxes are going to hit them one day. Everyone. I don't care who you are. You're not getting away with it. If you owe back taxes to the IRS, bingo, you're not going to like hearing about their 92% conviction rate. What does that mean? It means that if the IRS wins 92% of tax avoider cases, they prosecute. Well, maybe you got away with it this long, but they're going to come for you, I guarantee you. You have to get out in front of your IRS problems before they show up at your home or your work, before they take your paycheck and bank accounts, and before they add you to their 92% conviction rate. Have you heard enough yet? No. Call Optima Tax Relief. They're the experts. They step in between you and the IRS, and they start resolving the problems that keep you up at night, sweating through the night. Just call them, ask how they've resolved over $500 million of tax debt for their clients. Ask them about their A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Ask about the Fresh Start program with a chance to settle your back taxes for only pennies on the dollar. They are amazing. I know because I see the success stories. This is a clean, good ad for you to pay attention to, like all of them. I want you to call 1-800-731-2474. Did you write it down? Tax problems, 1-800-731-2474. Did you get it yet? 1-800-731-2474. I'm Michael Savage. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. It is the Savage Nation. Well, hour number 2 is almost coming to an end, and I know in some markets the show ends at hour 2, and I know many of you are kind of lost at the end of the second hour, but for most of the country, the third hour is alive and well. And so if you want to get in on the Savage Nation, you go to michaelsavage.com, whatever, you can do it right now. I have a new website, which I'm really happy with. I got to tell you, I feel good today, strangely enough. I don't know what's wrong, but something's wrong when I feel this good. I don't feel elated, but I feel good. The website is up. It took a heck of a lot of doing. I didn't know how hard they are to do them right. I mean, anywhere. michaelsavage.com, home of the Savage Nation, Borders, Language, Culture. Let's have a round of applause for the new webmaster. Karen O'Toole did a great job. Actually, she got married. And, I mean, it's all up there. Trump's DACA dilemma, meaning my monologue, is up there. God, Faith, and Reason, which you can order. Trump's War, which you can order direct from Amazon or from BarnesandNoble.com. We've got cartoons from the great cartoonist now. I loved his work. Garrison, he is the best. He does the best cartoons I've ever seen. If you like cartoons, Ben Garrison. Terrific cartoons. And then there's some really tragically difficult stories to look at. Malaria from Africa invades Italy. Cop shoots Ohio journalist at traffic stop after confusing camera and tripod for gun. Unbelievable. Calling nurse a hero. Utah hospital bars police from patient care areas. Good. I know that's that's a two-edged sword here. To bar police from patient care areas is not necessarily the right answer. I was once in the emergency room as a patient, I think 2 years ago, and they brought in I looked like a pretty violent guy from San Quentin. 2 cops had to bring him in, and he was handcuffed to the gurney. I mean, I looked over from my hospital bed, or I was in the ER room with something happened to me. I looked over. I said, "Boy, this guy, he looks like this is like right out of a Robert De Niro movie from years ago. One of these tattooed guys who looks like he could break the gurney and run down the stairs with the gurney attached to him." So saying no, all cops, that's stupid to bar all cops from patient care areas. That's a disastrously stupid answer. You had a cop who looked like he was drugged out of his mind, and a bully, and a woman hater, all in one, and it was like a perfect storm when he abused this nurse, assaulted this nurse, kidnapped this nurse. And if you watch that tape, your heart will break for this girl. She's screaming out. She's actually screaming for someone to help her, and this thug. Well, anyway, I did it the other day. I don't want to do it again. Teen died after 5 bags of ecstasy exploded in her stomach. Unreal. It's on michaelsavage.com. Next story, rivers of blood in Muslim city where animals are slaughtered without pity. Tell me about that one. Question, what really died at Auschwitz? Answer, Europe. What an essay. Again, on michaelsavage.com. China says Trump's trade threat over North Korea unacceptable. China's all behind this. I've said this for years. North Korea is their junkyard dog. Now others are finally saying it. And this junkyard dog doesn't growl unless China pulls its chain. And that's why North Korea is growling. And the reason China is pulling its chain is because it's all about money. China is simply trying to scare Trump into stopping his trade threats. It's that simple. China's gotten away with murder for years. China has stolen our technology. China has dumped garbage on our shores. China has stolen our factories and exported them right into their own country and driven away millions of jobs. China has dumped crap on our shore in order to drive domestic industries off the map. So, of course, they love it. They rebuilt their whole country based upon screwing us. So finally Trump comes along and says, look, we're going to straighten this out. We're going to straighten this out. It's America First jobs. We're going to put some tariffs on your goods. So China's saying, growl, Kim Jong mentally fat one. We'll pull a chain on Kim Jong fat one, and he'll growl. Hydrogen bombs, atomic bombs, crazy. Crazy. Burning Man fire ceremony victim identified. Not a victim. If you're stoned out of your mind at a sex festival like this and you walk into a fire, who's the victim? What do you mean victim?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
Memories, dreams, and reflections, from DACA to whatever. Well, we did a lot today. I mean, I did like 5 shows in one. I haven't yet chanted MAGA. But I was thinking about the MAGA chant, how it's very useful for almost everything. You know, the acronym MAGA, Make America Great Again, that Mr. Trump used on his hats. It kind of worked for a while. But now people think they could just chant MAGA and stop hurricanes. Or if enough of them stand in front of an oncoming flood, they can chant MAGA and the flood waters will recede. It doesn't work that way. But you know, the acronym MAGA, I was thinking about it just in some semi-comedic way to my own self to keep myself happy. MAGA could be used by other people, including people who are kind of anti-Trump agenda. Because Hillary could come out with MAGA and put on a hat that's green and say, MAGA, Make America Green Again. It would work for her. Or we could see a million little MAGA hats in Korea, North Korea, from Kim Jong-il, and his hat could stand for Make America Go Away, MAGA. I mean, so you never know what an acronym stands for. Just warming you up a bit. I have not played one soundbite. So Robert and Jim, you killed yourself this morning because you know I'm a sound freak. They sent me like, how many pages did you send today? I can't believe it. I've not played a soundbite today on this show. What is this? 9 pages of sound? Oh, yes, 9 pages of sound. And I didn't use any of them? Oh, that's terrible. Well, let's turn to page 4 of my sound bites and not play the nurse being dragged out of the hospital and arrested. It's heartbreaking. It's on michaelsavage.com. Here is the nurse on CNN saying she was scared to death and felt betrayed, and I agree with her. Listen to 14.
I can't speak for Officer Payne, but what I can say is that I stood my ground. I stood for what was right, which was to protect the patient. As a nurse, any nurse, I think, would have done exactly what I did. I knew that I was doing what was right, what was offered to me by a policy that I trusted and I believed to be lawful.
I've said 100 times that the emergency room personnel are the saints of our society. So here she goes in clip 16 now. Listen to what she says about the cop, the rogue cop.
He was aggressive from the beginning. As a nurse, it's my job to assess a situation, to assess a patient. And my assessment skills led me to believe that Officer Payne was already agitated. He had already stormed off in disapproval when I had originally told him that he couldn't do this up on the unit itself. Initially, I had explained to him the 3 things, that unless the patient was under arrest, I needed to have an electronic warrant, and there was no family, and the patient could not consent for himself. And I said, I'm sorry. And he said, you're not sorry, and got very upset. And that was sort of the thing that triggered, this is not okay. No,
it's not okay. The cop looks like there was something off there. If you watch the tape, the cop was either on drugs, medication, which to me are drugs anyway, or something else was wrong here, because the way he treated her was quite misogynistic. There was a little something else there, by the way. Meanwhile, General Mattis warns of a massive and overwhelming military response to North Korea. What in the world does that mean? Listen to clip 18. Let's see if we can figure it out.
We have many military options, and the president wanted to be briefed on each one of them. We made clear that we have the ability to defend ourselves and our allies, South Korea and Japan, from any attack, and our commitments among the allies are ironclad. Any threat to the United States or its territories, including Guam, or our allies, will be met with a massive military response, a response both effective and overwhelming.
Sounds good on paper, but Putin is warning of planetary catastrophe. I would take Putin seriously. I know many of the neocons out there think it's fun to kick Putin because they're all, very powerful in the media. But the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, has warned that the escalating North Korean crisis could cause a planetary catastrophe and huge loss of life. And he then went on to describe U.S. proposals for further sanctions on Pyongyang as useless. Putin said, ramping up military hysteria in such conditions is senseless. It's a dead end, he told reporters in China. It could lead to a global planetary catastrophe and a huge loss of human life. There is no other way to solve the North Korean nuclear issue, save that of peaceful dialogue. Now, you've got to understand something here. Here is Putin in China, now an ally of China, when before he was sort of an ally of ours. And because of the loud mouths on the left and the I don't even want to use the word anymore because it's been overly used by me. Because of the fools in the media, the neocons in particular, those who come from an era where Russia was our natural enemy because they're worshippers of Ronald Reagan, the saint. You know Ronald Reagan, the saint? You've heard of Saint Barry. Well, there was a saint before him. He was Saint Reagan. And for some, Saint Reagan knew everything. He was all-knowing, like some talk show hosts who claim they know everything. I guess maybe I'm guilty of that as well myself at times. But I'll tell you right now, when it comes to this situation, it is because of the neocon warmongers that were on the, brink of a nuclear war. Putin was our ally until the Democrats started bashing him and calling him every name under the sun, including Hitler. I think it was Hillary who first called him Hitler. Remember that? About 3 years ago? She used that as a kicking, he was just a kicking stone. Putin, Hitler, Putin, Hitler, Putin, Hitler. And then the dummies started in with Putin, Hitler, and Putin this and Putin that. The next thing you knew, we got sanctions. The other day, we closed their embassies here in San Francisco and elsewhere. I guess that makes Feinstein real happy now. Maybe it's a piece of real estate her husband can buy, cheap on the market like post offices. Never, you could look into it from that point of view when you think about it. Actually, it's a good business opportunity. I don't even know if the Russians own their embassy on the top of Pacific Heights. It could be U.S. property. I don't really know who owns it, but it's an opportunity for the husband of Dianne Feinstein. He's a very, very special man. He gets very, very special deals on government property that he buys and sells at a very high profit margin because he's so smart, not because she helps him in any way, don't get me wrong. He's just smart. He seems to know what to buy and when, like post offices and things like that. Maybe he wants to buy the Russian embassies that are being closed and turn them into condominiums. Who knows? He can turn them into condominiums for the dreamers, for all I know. Special housing for dreamers. That way you get a twofer out of it, maybe a threefer. So it's a catastrophe for sure. It's now a diplomatic catastrophe, created again by the Democrats and by the neocons who are bloodthirsty on paper because they will not have to fight these wars. They love to fight them in the media. It's a very powerful thing to do, to say, bomb them, kill them, Putin's a Hitler, without thinking about the consequences. Well, let me remind you of something. Putin is the furthest thing from Hitler you could ever find on the planet today. That's number one. And number two, when a man like that says from China that there could be a planetary catastrophe, I would take it very seriously. And moreover, I'll tell you something else. Kim Jong mentally ill on, who triggered a magnitude 6.3 earthquake. And apparently that bomb was more powerful than the bombs dropped by the U.S. in Hiroshima and Nagasaki during the Second World War. This is no longer an intellectual matter. This is way past being an intellectual matter. And for the morons in the American media and the morons in the American government who called for sanctions on Russia and more sanctions on North Korea, can I ask you to please pick up a history book and show me when sanctions worked other than to make the nation that was sanctioned even more aggressive and more hostile? Can I remind you of what happened in World War II with Japan and why they were driven to war without necessarily wanting war? Do you know what happens when you economically starve a nation? Do you think they all bend to your will because you have a television camera in front of your eyes and you feel all powerful as you say, sanction Russia? You feel like a real powerful man with your pancake makeup, and you got a TV camera on you, and you puff up your chest and you say, put sanctions on that Hitler. Sanctions on Russia. I'll tell you what happens is you push the man to the wall, and you never know what's going to happen when you corner an animal, especially an animal as tough as Putin. There's time for diplomacy, and I hope that cooler heads prevail. I hope that the neocons who are bloodthirsty for war are seen but not heard. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
We are people of compassion, and we are people of law. But there is nothing compassionate about the failure to enforce immigration laws. Enforcing the law saves lives, protects communities and taxpayers, and prevents human suffering. Failure to enforce the laws in the past has put our nation at risk of crime, violence, and terrorism.
Thank you, Mr. Sessions, the best attorney general we've had in decades. What a great man he really is for upholding the law of the land. He should arrest the mayors who are defying the law of the land in order to appease the illegal voters and to keep the gravy train flowing. I think in order to soothe the wild beasts of war, tomorrow I'm going to play some Russian music. Robert, take a note. We're going to play Dmitry Kabalevsky, the comedians. I love it. We'll play Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov, one of my favorite, Mikhail Glinka, Alexander Borodin, Mussorgsky, Sergei Prokofiev, and maybe Swalish tomorrow. See, I remember some of the Russian music. I guess I'm a Russian spy because I grew up listening to classical music from great European composers and great Russian composers, but I guess that means I somehow have a link directly to the Kremlin. Not. We have Kabalevsky, the comedians. That'd be a while to dig that one up. No one ever heard of it. Russian composers, why, they're all fascists. We know who they are, those Russies. We know what they are. They're all fascist Nazis. Feinstein's probably looking into the real estate deal up there. Close them down. Close them down. Close them down. Close them down. Shut them embassies. Kick them out. Kick them out. Kick them out. Kick them out. Real smart. Real geniuses. How do we wind up with such stupid people in such high places that we got to this point with North Korea? This should have been stopped during King Barry's reign. King Barry should have stopped it, but it's all kicked into Trump's hands. Let's see how this guy handles it. That's a real dilemma. Trump's DACA dilemma is one monologue for today. It's on MichaelSavage.com. But I would say Trump's North Korea dilemma is even a better one. What the heck is he going to do about that? Does anyone know? Bomb them, kill them all, kill them all, kill them all, kill them all, kill them all. That's what's going to go. Bomb them, MAGA, bomb them, MAGA, bomb them, kill them, kill them. No, that's not the answer. Another question today was, why are so many cops on edge and why are they so trigger happy? Now, the immediate answer is because they've been attacked mercilessly after 8 years of the reign of terror of Barack Obama. The reign of terror on the police is not really over. And there's a lot of rogue elements running around the streets of America, beating people up, stabbing people, and they're not in blue, by the way. It's happening every day. The newspaper sweeps it under the rug. There are robberies, there are assaults, there are felonious assaults. You can't believe what's going on in this country because people have been empowered by 8 years of the war on police, and the police have basically looked the other way now for fear of losing their job, going to jail for enforcing a law, being called every name under the sun, for stopping people before they commit crimes. So the cops have rightfully started to look the other way. Right in New York just today, 2 men were stabbed in the back of the head by an unknown assailant. Of course, you have to read the whole article to find the description. He did not look like a Russian agent, the assailant. Let's put it to you that way. He did not look like he came from Ukraine to stab people in the back of the head. But that's why you didn't see the story. because he was not blonde and blue-eyed, the assailant, stabbing people in the head for no reason in New York. And it doesn't fit the agenda of the comedians on CNN, NBC, and Fox News. The comedians have their agenda, and their chorus line, their storyline is already written. Oh, I'd like to now come in with Kabalevsky, the Gallop. That would be a good one right now, Kabalevsky. See, if I could produce the show from the beginning to the end, I'd have music to go at every minute. But you can't do that. When you do it the way I do it, on the natural element, and it evolves itself, you have to do it as you can do it. But maybe tomorrow we'll play Russian music on the show to show Russian people that we are their friends, and then not all of us are bloodthirsty media neocons who hate you. We remember your suffering in World War II. We know that you are our greatest ally in the fight against worldwide terrorism, meaning Islamic terrorism in plain English. We know. We understand. We are not the American media. We are not the American left. We are the American Americans. And let's hope we can resolve this without insanity. Let's see we can solve this without the planetary catastrophe that seems to be right behind the curtain here. The same time a hurricane is heading for Florida, the hurricane seems to already hit down there in the North Korea area. Seems a hurricane is about to hit here in America, kicking Russians out of their embassy, closing their embassies. Who decided that? I will wager a bet, while we don't know, this was not decided by Trump's people. I will bet you $1 million. Well, I can't bet you $1 million because, A, I'm not going to do it. I'll just bet you a significant amount of, let us say, humble pie that the decision to close Russian embassies was not that of Trump. I will bet you whatever you want to bet, as long as you pay both sides, that the decision to close Russian embassies for no reason whatsoever was done by holdovers in the State Department from Barack Obama, the biggest troublemaker in the history of this country. The man who makes believe he was against millionaires and billionaires. Remember that? Remember that scam for 8 years? How Obama bashed millionaires and billionaires, and the minute he retired, he took a $70 million book advance for a book yet written. A book unwritten. $70 million. Why in the world would anyone pay him $70 million? Do you think the book will sell that well? I don't know. I doubt it. But aside from that, the minute he got out of office, the man who hated millionaires and billionaires, like all of them, he immediately flew on the private jets provided by, let's see, members of Black Lives Matter? Check no. Private jets provided by members of Antifa? Check no. He flew on private jets provided by millionaires and billionaires to go to their yachts owned by millionaires and billionaires. The yachts were not owned by Antifa or by Black Lives Matter or by the National Lawyers Guild or by the ACLU. No, Obama circulated after the fact with millionaires and billionaires because that's all he ever circulated with. We're talking about North Korea, what should be done. We are talking about we won't get fooled again by the WHO, and yet Trump said he's going to end DACA, but not now. So he kicked the can down the road, which he actually has to do. It's in the hands of Congress. He doesn't have unilateral powers as Obama did because Obama was special. As you understand, the rules that applied to America for the hundreds of years that we've been a country did not apply to Obama because he was special. He was a saint. He won a Nobel Prize before he was born, apparently, and when he was selected to be president, long before he was even a teenager, by the secret hands that run everything. Joke. But anyway, the fact of the matter is DACA is very controversial for a number of reasons. It hurts a lot of American students. It hurts a lot of American workers. And so what's the answer? To kick them out? I don't know. What's the answer? We hear that they're all wonderful young people. Now they're young people. I guess that would also include the people who committed crimes. They're also wonderful young people. You see, here's the interesting thing. Young people and teens are good if they're not white. I know that was shocking, wasn't it? When have you last heard anyone refer to young people who, let us say, want Robert E. Lee statues as young people? Maybe some young people in the South like Robert E. Lee statues, but they're not young people. See, they're not young people. They're fascists. They're racist. They're Ku Klux Klan members. They're Nazis. They're no longer young people. But if they're illegal aliens, they're all good, and they're all young people or teens, according to Wolfie and Blitzer, on Prancer, on Dancer, with all of your fables. Then we have the North Korean nuclear crisis. That is a huge story that kept me awake all weekend. That's a real story. that has to be dealt with. Because Putin has warned of planetary catastrophe. Putin has warned that the escalating North Korean crisis could cause a planetary catastrophe and huge loss of life, and described U.S. proposals for further sanctions on Pyongyang as useless. Now, I want to say something about this. The Democrats and the haters in the Republican Party who have pushed for war with Russia, who have forced Trump to close embassies, Russian embassies, Pelosi, Feinstein, all of them have blood on their hands if this should escalate into a war. Never forget who started this showdown with Russia. It was the illegitimi on the left who wanted to crucify Trump using the false narrative of Russia. They call Putin Hitler. That's what Hillary did. And then every last Democrat, every last one of them, every last one of these illegitimates had the nerve to take our greatest ally. It's insanity, really, not nerve. Our greatest ally against ISIS was Russia, is Russia, has been Russia. And they have a nerve now to push Russia into the corner with China and North Korea. I want you to see not unintended consequences, but the consequences of stupidity. And stupidity it is. There is no other name for it. But in this case, the stupidity could lead to thorough nuclear war. And I want to remind you of something else. We've pushed Russia almost to the brink with what? With sanctions? And tell me what sanctions have led to in the past with other nations. Most of you don't know history. That's why you're condemned to repeat it. But I'm a student of history, and I know what sanctions have done in the past. When Japan was sanctioned in World War II, just before World War II, she became more hostile. When Japan was sanctioned, she invaded more territory because she was starved for resources. She invaded Manchuria, which led to World War II with Japan. You put sanctions on Russia over Ukraine, all you geniuses on the left, what has happened? Now Russia's been put into the camp with China and North Korea. They're no longer neutral. You did it. So what should Trump do about North Korea? Should Japan go nuclear? We hear DACA is ended, comma, sort of, period. What is DACA? Deferred action, whatever. In other words, it's the legalization of at least 800,000 illegal aliens. Now, they're human beings. They're human beings. Some are good, some are bad, some are average. But Jeff Sessions today announced that DACA, that was created by Obama's illegal executive order, by the way. Remember, Obama flooded them in by train every way he could, and he gave an executive order granting clemency to children brought here by illegal immigrants. So Obama used his pen and his phone to put something in place that he had no right to do under the Constitution. You cannot make law as the president. Only the Congress can do that. And Obama completely cut them out, as dictators often do. Now, that could be an impeachable offense, but no one dares speak that word about St. Barry. You can only talk of impeaching Mr. Trump. My question is, why can't Trump take the same executive action and make sure DACA can't be put into effect by Congress? After all, Obama set the precedent. Everyone is now acting as though DACA is the law of the land. But it's not, and it never was, because it was done unconstitutionally by Barry. But no one cared about that because Obama did it. The DOJ didn't care, the Supreme Court didn't care, Congress didn't care. So we ask, why can't Trump make an executive order permanently banning DACA? Because he doesn't want to. Trump started waffling during the campaign when he said we had to do immigration with heart. What does that even mean? As I wrote in Trump's War, we've seen what happens when you make laws using one's heart instead of one's head. You get what Angela Merkel is dealing with in Germany, an out-of-control migrant problem that is causing terror and crime throughout Germany. Or in the UK and France, where there are places the police won't go for fear of getting killed. Is that what you want here in America? You want to wind up a stranger in a strange land? So now Trump has put his Republican Congress in a position where they have to take sides for or against these illegal immigrants. And Congress, who couldn't repeal Obamacare, as incompetent as they are, now has to figure out a solution to the DACA problem he just dumped in their laps. Do you actually think these do-nothings can figure this out? They can't even get funding for the border wall, another project that seems to have gone by the wayside. Well, it looks like the dream is over, but not for the dreamers. It looks like the dream of getting this agenda passed and passing, not amnesty, but reality is over for us, the United States citizens. Sure, Trump kicked it down the road for 6 months, but that means you know what's going to happen. So I was going to talk about immigration from a biological point of view in a way you probably have never heard. I read widely in different fields. So one of the magazines I get is called Wooden Boat. And it's like, what? How's he doing this now? It's a Wooden Boat, the magazine for wooden boat owners, builders, and designers. Now, I don't happen to own a wooden boat, but I like to read about craftsmen. In fact, when I went to art class the other night, I looked down at the woodworking shop. I got so intrigued by the wood and the lumber, and I wanted to join a woodworking class. But putting that aside for a minute, I was flipping through the magazine, actually reading every story, and I stumbled upon a thing on wood technology, Curse of the Rings. Just stick with me for a minute. I know this takes longer than saying MAGA and Trump is bad or Trump is good. So I was reading this thing, Curse of the Rings, and it's about the wiping out of certain trees in Maine and the Northeast because of a disease that's hitting these hardwoods. And it's all a result by attacks upon these native hardwoods by various microorganisms that come into these ring porous hardwoods. And in the past in America, we've lost American chestnut trees in the eastern United States. All of you listening to the show have heard of Dutch elm disease, except those of you who have emigrated from Bulgaria. Dutch elm disease devastated American elm trees. And unless you've emigrated from Saudi Arabia, you probably know about oak wilt, which has caused havoc in red oaks and even in white oaks. You say, well, what does this have to do with anything? It has to do with fungal diseases that have attacked our native trees that have been brought in as a result of exotic wilt-causing fungi, which are introduced to North America and spread by insect vectors. In other words, new fungi were brought into the United States through insects, and the native trees had no resistance to these fungi and the insect transporters. And so these new unsuspecting and unprepared trees become devastated. I think you can follow where I'm going with this. And another insect pest I learned, more recently introduced to American forests, is the emerald ash borer, which attacks and kills all the ash species. She said, well, what does it have to do with anything? Why are you telling me this? Well, I'll bring it down to some practicality for you. Fear is now spreading among wood industries, ranging from baseball bat manufacturers in the Midwest to tribal basket makers in Maine. What is causing it? It's the transport of diseased logs from foreign areas, which are spreading insects and fungi to new uninfected areas and wiping out trees indigenous to regions of the United States. Transport of firewood has been an insidious way in which these diseases have spread within the United States. So I was reading about this from the point of view of ring porous tree diseases, and I don't want to bore you with the details of this, but if you were to look at a micro slide of a sugar maple on the left and a red oak on the right, and you compare the size of the vessels inside each of these trees, you will see that the red oak has very, very large bore vessels. Think of them as blood vessels. They're very large in size compared to very small sugar maple vessels. And this explains why the trees are so easily contaminated by foreign elements, such as the fungi brought in by the insect vectors. And this has a lot to do with immigration. We are like the indigenous trees in this country, very strong trees, very hardy trees that have withstood the ages, the chestnuts, the Dutch elm disease, the Dutch elms, the oak trees. But all of these indigenous species have been wiped out and are dying off because of the carelessness nature of bringing foreign trees and diseases with them into their midst. Now, the same thing happened to indigenous populations when European explorers arrived. If you study that period, you won't believe it. I mean, I've been in the Marquesas, one of the most remote island groups in the world. It's called the Land of Men. These are some of the most, I say, movie star-looking people on the planet. If you've never been there, go look up Marquesan men. And they're a strange group of islands that are the furthest inhabited island area in the world, the furthest from a landmass on the planet. I was there many, many years ago on a ship studying ethnobotany, picking plants, looking for healing plants, whatnot. And I looked up the history of the Marquesas. These were hardy, strong, indigenous people who had been there for millennia, countless millennia. No one knows how long they had been there. And they learned how to live off the land, and they built a society with a physical culture, with a material culture, with a social organization, with music, with art, the ability to make food, the ability to grow food, the ability to hunt, the ability to fish, the ability to travel over long areas of the ocean without dying. Magnificent men and women. And along came the explorers who introduced venereal disease and smallpox and wiped out most of the island within only a few small years. Did the European explorers purposely wipe out the indigenous people? No. It was a product of the contact between these isolated human beings and these foreigners. I think you can get the drift that we are like the oak trees of America. No matter how strong you are, you're going to be wiped out unless your government protects you from the invading species. I don't think you quite understand that unless you understand that, but you have to understand it's going to happen. You'll be wiped out culturally, socially, if not physically, unless your government protects you. That's how I see it. That's because I'm trained in biology. If you're not, what can I do to help you? Probably nothing. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. They're all so wonderful, these young people, aren't they? The undocumented students are so much superior in virtually every way to the American student. They are everything that the world has been waiting for. They are the dream people. By the way, the college president is an acolyte of Willie Brown. See how it all works together? After they finish doing what they do, they get farmed out to the colleges to collect the fattest salaries you could ever imagine, with the fattest pensions that you could never afford. And then while they're there, they spit on American values and American laws, saying that they're holier than thou. By the way, when I saw what they were doing and the way they're bending over backwards at this college, I couldn't help but sending my comment to the college president, and I made it very simple. I said, "You are openly violating federal law. Federal law controls immigration policies. I am reporting your blatant disregard both for the will of the majority of legal American citizens and for common sense control of our national borders." That's what I sent to him. I hope they put him in prison. What's odd to me, it's not odd at all, is when Barry broke the law, that would be President Obama to you. So for the sake of identification, when President Obama broke the law, which he did numerous times on immigration issues, and I got on this show and I said, the states don't want this. The states don't want this. The states want their own way of doing things. Many of you call the show and say, oh, no, no, no. Federal law is what rules over immigration issues, not state law. See? Well, now there's a new federal government, and the new federal law is the old federal law. And that's why it should override all of that which the states want to do. But you see, it doesn't apply anymore because the lying hypocrites on the left want to change the rules according to what they want. So they create a Dream Center that you pay for, and the Dream Center is a one-stop, safe, caring place for undocumented students. And it gives them personalized support as they begin their college journey. Isn't that nice? My father was an immigrant. I had no college journey help. I had to work after school. I worked happily after school. I was glad to get a job in my friend's father's clothing store in Jackson Heights. In fact, I loved the job. And I read the Dream Center staff are here to create a welcoming experience while students navigate matters related to AB 540 admissions. That means how to scam the system and get in even though you're not qualified. DACA, the California Dream Act, another act passed to give advantages to illegal aliens. EOPS, Extended Opportunities Program and Services, Americans need not apply. The BOG, Board of Governors fee waiver, again, Americans need not apply. Referrals to assessment and counseling, again, Americans need not apply. And every other trick in the book in order to make sure that illegal aliens known as dreamers get to the head of the line. And I'm trying to enlighten you as to the fact that, you know, there's an old adage in the stock market, whatever goes up, something must come down. If someone makes money, it means someone lost money. Did you know that? It's the same with this DACA program. Whoever is given an unfair advantage with DACA, this unfair advantage is being taken away from someone else, black or white or Asian. An illegal student is being shortchanged in order to make sure that the illegal aliens who are here under DACA get a gold-plated passage through the college experience.
Savage.